Hey everyone,
Woo-hoo!
welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to A Thousand Eyes on One podcast. This is our book club, Wine on an Empty Stomach. I'm Tanya,
I'm Nikki.
and today we are finishing the Broken Earth trilogy with the final book, The Stone Sky, written
Hmm.
by the wonderful N.K. Jemisin.
Micah, is it sus? Maybe we planned it this way.
A
Maybe
lunar
we planned it
eclipse
this way.
tonight, huh?
Yeah, there's a lunar eclipse tonight. And hopefully, like up here in this area, it'll stay clear enough for us to see it. Because earlier I was really, really getting sad that that might not be possible.
I
We're catching the moon.
we're catching the moon tonight.
What's up?
I excuse me, drink some water. I don't even know how to begin the ending of this trilogy.
You know what? I I've thought about this a couple ways, and I don't know if we should dive into your tweets about this recently and just like the heartbreakingness of, Nasun and her journey, or if we dive into like Hoa's story, because I do want to read. I was telling Tanya this yesterday that I want to read all the Still and just chapters consecutively, and I didn't have time to do that. But oh, so fascinating to get all that backstory of like Hoa's origin and like what his purpose was and how that they were able to use magic and and Arachne and how
Well, you know
his
what? Yeah,
father.
let's start with Hoa's story because um you know, with Nasun and Esun, largely we spent a lot of this book learning Hoa's story and also being inside Nasun and Esun's heads as they travel.
Yeah,
Um we didn't, especially Esun, with her it's mostly just kind of been what's going on inside. Um
yeah.
we can, yeah, let's start with Hoa's story. We learned how we lost the moon. Um
Mhm.
it's the hardest thing with this is that I don't think it's possible to cover everything in an hour.
No, no,
It's
and we're
not.
doing
You
everybody a favor by keeping it to an hour.
Yeah, we
Because if you listen to our podcast, we are not good on
no.
condensing shit.
No. Um but all along we've been hearing about Father Earth. It's kind of hard to talk about Hoa's story without, let's talk about first Nasun's trip, because I feel like that'll give us really good context to talk about Hoa's story.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about Esun and Nasun's relationship and Esun's struggles, because I had mentioned that this was particularly heartbreaking to be reading over Mother's Day
Mm.
weekend. And, if
Mm.
you have mommy issues at all, even in the slightest, like this is going to trigger so much shit. So,
Totally. Yeah, I mean, well, you could say when we last saw Nasu, and she was being um, hmm, guided, misled by Steele to do
mhm.
some reckless shit, and to journey to Core Point, which is on the other side of the planet. And they find out that there's a way to get there. They have to they journey for months and months. I forgot where they actually had to go until they get to a place where they walk down in deep to the depths of the earth and take a vehicle through the core of the world to the other side, which in and of itself is just like a mind blowing journey.
Yeah, it's
Because I don't
wild
think
because
I'm
as
not
she's
scared,
traveling through it,
but
it was
yeah,
very scary.
yeah, it's like I wasn't scared throughout the series, but like that
No.
part, like going every time you hear the hello little enemy and knowing that that's what they're passing through, like
Yeah.
oh, oh
So down under there, we find out that place is just completely teeming with magic. Um, or it's eating a large amount of magic, and she finds out that um, that's what powers everything essentially. Um,
it's magic.
Hopefully you've read it, so I don't have to go into detail. She, but when she gets to the core of the earth, is where you not only meet Father Earth, who is angry and absolutely filled with hate at humanity. And
Mhm.
he is teeming with magic, is what I meant to say. Father Earth is just a big bright ball of
Yeah, he is
magic.
the source of magic in the world, essentially.
But
Like it's
when
all
she
coming from
mentioned
him.
seeing all those other faces, so we
Oh,
learn why Alabaster did not want to
want to
get
be
buried,
buried.
because
Father
Father
Earth
Earth is eating their he's just keeping their souls.
keeping their souls, eating them hostages. It reminded me so much of I forgot which Freddy Krueger it was, but I think it's maybe the third one, Dream Warriors, where his guy opens up his shirt and like Freddy's like all the little
Ugh.
soul faces or wait, bleh, teeming with souls. Yeah, that was and
It
just
was
to know
terrifying.
the heat and the hatred that he feels, and she's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna end all this shit.
And through all of this, Shafa ends up being in so much pain that it completely debilitates him. He's basically in a coma.
Yeah, it's like you
Um,
really. I mean, we knew from the last book that Father Earth and in the evil Earth wasn't just a metaphor, but to
right.
get to kind of be eye to eye to him, with him was yeah. Thanks, AKA Dream Warriors. Ooh, that was that was
It was
intense, and then to know that she's going to continue with the journey even though she sees like what it's putting Shafa through, and Shafa knowing, like, having some familiarity with um the vehicles and the route that they're going to take, because we find out that that's where
mhm,
Warrant is in Core Point. um and it's like you hate Shafa in the first book, but by the time you get to the last book, you just, you feel maybe a little bit differently towards him because he's suffering all of this to like do right by her.
right.
Oh,
Because he's had to have been evil for so long. And
yeah.
we learned that he's literally thousands of years old. And
Hmm.
Steele's argument is, when you think about it, not crazy, really.
Yeah,
Steele is like
no one
30,
should live that
40,000
long.
years old, and he's saying that
Yeah,
people shouldn't live forever. His hope. So
yeah.
now we understand the different parts of the war. There are people who want to completely end the earth so that they can finally die. There are people who want to um bring the moon back so that the seasons can end. And then we have Father Earth who just wants to end humanity, not necessarily the earth himself, but just humanity. Um, so why does Father Earth want to end humanity? And now we can get into Hoa's story.
Dun, dun, dun.
We find out that there was a race of people called, what is it called? The Nice.
The niece or the niece. I can't remember if they pronounce it niece and yes, but let's go niece.
But essentially, the old civilization still Anages, that's who they abused and conquered and destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
They had ice white eyes, so we find out where the whole ice white eyes thing comes from, and that ends up
Mm-hmm.
getting passed down throughout
Yep.
time. Um,
And they used magic freely, whereas the people in what's it, Yemenis? Oh,
still
yeah,
Anages.
they the Solanagists, they thought that, there was like a time and a place for magic, but like people from the Est were just like magical beings. They use it all the time for everything. They would, what would be maybe considered frivolously by the people there, the Solanagists.
So yeah, we find out those people pretty much get destroyed, and then they try to create new ones, or they say they're decanted, which is, it reminded me of this movie I watched recently. But anyway, where like this robot is creating people, and like the baby basically develops in like hours instead of months.
Hmm.
Um, and it's so when they keep saying they were decanted, fully grown, and already with knowledge that they needed. Hoa, old Hoa, had no idea that he was a prisoner. Hoa,
Yeah.
Yela, Tetloa is the one who got sent to the Briar Patch.
Hmm.
Um, so they've
Oh,
created
the
these
briar
people.
patch.
Yeah, they've created these people as a means to use magic and orogeny together, which back then was just called tuning. We find out that they essentially ran out of people to exploit and needed to exploit life. And that's why we have the Briar Patch filled with Nice and these tuners who didn't pass the test, essentially.
Mhm.
They keep them alive because there's magic in life. And
They're
so
basically the original version of node maintainers.
right. Yeah.
Instead of stabilizing, they're feeding off this. Their whole city is feeding off of the magic within them.
And just giving them and letting them keep enough magic just to stay alive. Um,
Oh.
so they realize that that's not sustainable, even though they have the obelisks, which is what the obelisk original use was as like a power source. So they decide that what has more life than anything else? The earth itself. But it
The
never
earth
occurs to
itself.
them that the fact that the earth has this much magic and life means that it is alive and sentient.
Mhm.
It's just another thing to exploit. So they have decided to take the magic from the earth to have an endless source of power.
Right, AK,
Eh,
that's a good comparison.
What was the
Sorry.
comparison?
She's comparing them to the Borg. They're
They
programmed to
were
do what was
bored.
needed and then discarded easily once when they were broken.
Yeah. Um, so as these tuners begin to learn the truth from Kalenli, the original
Kalenli.
tuner.
I love Kalenli.
I,
Kalenli.
right. So Kalenli is like the original tuner. She's the prototype, but she's a little
Mhm.
too human. They need and it brings me back to our first the first book, fifth season, when we talked about how they say that origins are not human as a way
Mhm.
to feel better about treating them like shit.
Exactly. Like to humanize them, and then you don't feel bad about using them as resources instead of treating them as people.
Right. So with Kalenli, this prototype tuner, she was too human. She blended in physically. She can
Mhm.
procreate. She was a baby and raised as a child, and then it became an
Mhm.
adult. And to them, that's too human. So they had to create these tuners who are completely white with white hair,
Mhm. They
and
created them in the image of the Naias people,
mhm, and then
the
they're
News people.
sterile. They give them, although they did give them sexual organs, which is
Mhm.
interesting because why? Which but reminds you what they used to do to node maintainers, so who
Yeah.
knows what kind of sinister things
Oh
were
man.
planned for them for later.
Yeah.
um
Oh
but
God,
they
what's
but
really
they're
going down
sterile.
at the Briar Patch?
Right, but they're also sterile and they don't have any kind of sexual or romantic desire until Hoa starts to feel something like love for Kalenli,
Yeah.
which makes him change, which makes them begin to
Mhm.
question, and
Mhm.
they devise their plan. They've decided that instead of tapping into the earth and taking its magic, that they're going to destroy the project.
Yeah.
What they don't count on is Father Earth has already made his own plans to destroy this
Mhm.
project. And so we have that moment where they're on the moon getting ready to take all of these obelisk. I always mess that word up. And we find out that Father Earth has taken over all of these obelisks. They have
Mhm.
bits of him inside the thing. I forgot what it was called.
Oh, the
Um,
plutonic engine.
no, where they had the metal that shattered and they were telling everyone to get away from it. And Hoa
Oh,
was
right.
warning them that it's angry.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh,
When he was on the
Micah just
moon.
said, Hoa, are we the baddies? Yeah. No,
Yeah,
really though. I mean, I think Hoa had
yeah.
that moment where they start because
Mhm.
they've only been told what they need to know.
Yeah.
Um, they know the full extent of what they're doing and they don't want to be a part of it. Um, and it's also I need a different word than funny, but the fact that their conductors have no idea that they can speak to each other through the earth. They have no
Oh,
idea the powers
yeah.
they have. They're so naive about what they've
Mhm.
created.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, they always have their little side conversations in the earth, and just to know like what it is that they can do was just so interesting. Like I feel like it gave a really, really good insight into how powerful Rajni really can be. Um,
when it's combined with magic.
yes. Sorry, my brother
So
was getting me.
yeah. Anyway, so as we know, the plan goes awry. The moon gets pushed out of orbit. The tuners get turned into stone eaters,
And
which we
it's
learned they're
Ho's
not
fault.
made. Huh? Oh, because he lost control of
Yeah, Hoa,
the
some, yeah,
onyx. The onyx was the
yeah.
key. He lost control of the onyx, and Father Earth made what they called the spare key,
Mhm.
and everything just went crazy. And so
Yeah,
now we also know that stone eaters are not actually stone, but they're just pure magic.
yeah.
They become pure
Oh,
magic. So they are the very first stone eaters. And those conductors, I assume, the ones that the metal shards went into, I assume
became the
became
first
the first
guardians?
guardians.
Yeah.
And one of the things Hoa said was that Father Earth, his plan didn't go all the way he wanted because he underestimated the will of humans. So the
Mhm.
guardians, they now have these new guardians, they now have Father Earth's power, but aren't necessarily following his will until they become contaminated.
Right.
So we don't know how they get back to Earth. Hoa has said he doesn't remember, and I thought that was funny.
Mhm.
Because I also wondered how the hell did they get back to Earth? He doesn't remember. He just remembers lots of burning and falling. So I guess he fell from the moon to the Earth. I don't know.
Yeah.
um. Anyway, one of the other things that stood out was he talks about the shattering. It didn't happen that day. He was able to put a
Yeah.
delay in what they set with the plutonic engine. So it's 100 years after this occurs that the shattering actually happens.
Mhm.
By then, Kalenli has gone on to have children. And now we know, I'm assuming Kalenli is the mother of all origins.
Yeah.
So all origins have a shared ancestor.
And then, like, learning casually that Galat's the baby daddy
Her
while
brother,
when
her adopted brother.
they were raised together because when that scene where they're in the garden and Hoa, I forgot what was the name of the other of the conductor who
Oh,
Hoa
right,
takes
the
over
woman
to
he
see
was
that.
with. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And like that whole scene where it's really subtle, but she like accidentally puts a hand on her stomach,
And
and
Hoa
everybody was
realizes what
like,
it means.
like, mm-hmm. Whew.
But it's just there was just so much information. Like now we know how the
Yeah,
first guardians were made, and we
you know
know
the.
what stone eaters are. We know where origins
Mm-hmm.
come from. We know who the mother of orogeny is. We now learn that the
Yep,
shattering did not happen the day that things went wrong, but a
and we know
hundred
what
years
caused the
later.
moon to be flung out of orbit.
Right. And to have like a hole in it. But it's crazy
Uh,
because like absolutely if we had the power to build something like that on the moon, like humanity absolutely really would do it.
yeah,
Like the idea of the moon getting destroyed because of, I mean, how much other like sci-fi is out there where it starts with humans trying to like destroy the moon or the sun, you
mm-hmm.
know, and
We're just
losing.
trying to get atomic power.
Yeah.
Chernobyl.
So that the all of the Syl Anagist chapters I did find really, really interesting and exciting. And I would like to also read those, just those back to back as a
Mm-hmm.
separate read. I really loved that. And I loved um learning who these stone eaters are, that like learning that uh
Exactly. Learning the
antimony is
antimony.
actually what Gewa,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I forgot who.
steel
What was
was
Steele's name?
Remwa.
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 I can never remember his name.
And Remwa was
And
the
then
one
the
who was
other
always in a
ones
bad mood.
who exactly, and the other two who were with them, who they said Hoa says that he remembers seeing at the very end at core point, but he realized that they were either choosing to kind of disengage or no longer remembered who they were
Right.
because after 40,000 years, it's really easy to forget yourself.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Whew. They are so old. I don't want to live for 40,000 years.
Hell no. Mm-mm, that's just like continuous heartbreak.
We also got confirmation that Alabaster was indeed that stone eater because
Hmm.
they found a way to create new stone eaters, although their first round was not so great. So that's
Yeah.
why some of them are kind of horrible.
and
We learned
hungry.
that as the yeah. Ugh. Uh, okay. Is there anything else you want to say about Hoa's story?
No, no. Just that, I love the end. We can talk about the end with him and Essen.
So
Essen turned Stone Eater.
Nasun in Core Point, she at this point it's like you have to remember that she's only 10.
Yeah.
Like
10 or 11
she's
by the time we get there, right? Is it 10 or 11? I
I
can't
don't
remember
think
if it's
she's
10 or
turned
11.
11 yet.
She's like almost like, okay, right.
Yeah. Um she's starting to kind of go back and forth on her anger at her mother because she's
Mm-hmm.
learned in such a short time. She's grown up so much and she's learned so
Yeah.
much.
She
And
realizes now that everything her mother did was for her own good. She was trying to protect her.
right.
And
It's just
she's only doing what she learned, It's conditioned
and also
intergenerational trauma
realizing
being
that
passed down.
Shafa abused her mother. And
Mm-hmm.
and then, she kind of tells herself, well, this isn't the same Shafa. And it's true.
Yeah,
It's not.
it's true. It's true.
But also Shafa,
Shafa made her mother the woman that raised her.
right. But also Shafa really did love all the kids that he was guardian for because that's what
Yeah.
kept him somewhat human.
Mm-hmm.
So we do learn that he is one of the earlier guardians. They said that the first round of guardians didn't last that long,
Yeah.
as long, but these new guardians last thousands of years as long as they don't get contaminated and as long as they keep the core stone in. Um, Also, Alabaster's guardian, we find out what happened to her. He removed her core stone
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
she went off to go live somewhere else and aged, and Shafa found her and killed her. It's like, why couldn't you let her be?
Yeah.
There's just, ugh.
Just think,
It's so many just heartbreaking things you learn. We
yeah.
learn Alabaster's past loves.
Oh, oh, that made me so sad. That made me so sad.
I missed him in this book too, with his
I did
ornery self.
too. I did too. I missed him a lot, but we get little glimpses of him in the diary that he's keeping, where you learn that he's like,
Hmm.
where he gets to core point and he's the only one there, and the Stone Eaters are like taking care of him, and he's like he has nothing, no one else to talk to because they don't always talk, and it's because their concept of time is so vastly different than his.
Right.
So like they'll forget to like move in what is real time for him. Um,
Hmm.
and he was like, for example, when he's talking about the one that who was like shaping the trees,
Oh
like
yeah,
she's
and she just
holding
holds
the
it
thing in
while
the
it
she just
grows.
holds it while it grows, and that's the reason they become shaped that way. But you get those little journal entries from him where he's talking about how he misses Corundon, and how he misses Essen, and how he actually loves her, and he hopes that he's able to keep an eye on, to keep tabs on her. He's like, oh, she's out there, she got two other children now, she's married,
Oh
you
right,
know
because I think
I'm,
Antimony
I'm
was
gonna
watching
protect
her.
those. Right. He's like, I'm gonna basically, I'm gonna shatter the world to protect your children so they don't have to end up like his other children. Because you find out that, um, we know that that node maintainer that they meet in the first book is indeed his child, but like how many of his other children have been sent to become node maintainers?
Right.
So like over and over again, he's being robbed of the opportunity to like, have the family and be a parent. And that's why he's so especially bitter, because he gets Corundum and, she has to kill him.
Also, those interludes were really important too,
Hmm.
because it's those interludes where we find the other tablets. We learn about the moon,
Oh,
the painting of
yes.
the moon. There's, finding out that well, all the things that Hoa told us essentially, and then it being destroyed by the Sanzed because they don't want that part of history remembered. And Alabaster being shown that by another Ten Ringer who is gone by how they got rid of him. I guess they must have
Mhm.
exploded him, but uh he's shown all of that. Alabaster's shown all of that. And that's what
Mhm.
makes him quote crazy, but he's not really crazy. He's just
No.
awake now.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. And I think that's a good point that you made, is like how they punish ten ringers is different from how they punish,
right,
lower ringed people.
right. And,
Makes you powerful.
what Alabaster really learns is that if you follow the rules, they'll kill you. If you don't follow the rules, they'll kill you, and that
Hmm.
they are just all slaves.
Yeah. There is no
So,
freedom. It's just like, oh, it's like there you have so many realizations of like, you know, their freedom being an illusion, whether it's Alabaster's or Hoa's in this book, or Nasun thinking that she's free of her parents and the world to travel, but she's still tied by these choices that she has to make that are going to impact everybody.
mhm.
Oh, the chains, the chains. Yes, Micah. I think it is the same one. He talks about the guy that he
Maybe the
loved.
same Time Ringer he loved in book 1. Yes, yeah, I think that's who they're talking about. This Time Ringer he was in love with who showed him, the other found
Mm-hmm.
tablets and all of that out in their journeys. I would actually like to go back and read through the interludes altogether as
Mm-hmm.
well, because it when you have the full context of the story, the
Yeah.
interludes mean even more. That's why rereads are so great. Why'd you zip your lips?
Because I want to talk about when you say interludes, and we're not going to go. We'll just like we'll pretend that I mentioned the book that we always talk about that we'll do eventually here and keep it moving.
Okay. No, we're yes, like the interludes in Stormlight Archive.
Yes,
Okay, you got it out.
exactly.
But that's why rereads are so great,
Yeah.
because you go back and they mean something else. When
Hmm.
you're on your first read, you don't really understand what the hell they're talking about.
Exactly.
um Essun, we how did you feel about seeing Mashish again?
I forgot all about him. And so every time I get to like it's my second read of the book, but like both times when I got there, I was like, oh yeah, that guy. But to know that he's just been kind of roughing it out there, um, it was, I don't know, it was good to see somebody who knew her from when she was a kid to kind of like tie her journey together, because Beth, she's gone through so much by the time we get to him. Like he's lost his legs, she's lost, she's basically calcifying and turning into stone.
Yeah.
And she's so much more powerful than everybody around here, but she literally can no longer do a Rajni.
And she's actually like kind of annoyed with him with his lack of skill at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because that's how Alabaster felt about her. He's like, "Why haven't you learned this yet?
Exactly.
Like, what is wrong with you?"
Exactly. I like the part even in the end of the book where she realizes that Nasun is the student that he always wanted,
Yeah.
because she's doing stuff that he like that should be impossible.
I mean, the great thing for Nasun is that she is not Fulcrum trained. Even though her mother taught her
Hmm.
using the Fulcrum's methods, she taught herself so much. So she was
Yeah,
able to think outside of the Fulcrum and kind of let instincts lead her. And,
yeah,
we know that the Fulcrum trains you a certain way on purpose because they don't want them accessing magic.
exactly.
They know the
Ooh.
damage that could be done.
Hmm.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
it's not like they aren't dangerous. I mean, look at what Alabaster did. What if Essun was unable to fix it? He would have ended humanity. So it's like, on one hand, Alabaster, they kind of had a point about some of you because you're doing shit like this.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, it's like, well, what about origins that are raised by origins?
Yeah. They never like, and they never had that
Imagine
opportunity.
imagine if Nasun lived in a world where Essun could have trained her openly.
Well, if she lived in Yika's world,
Right.
yeah. No, it was cool to see him again. It was cool to know that there was like another origin of power out there in the desert, after that harrowing journey that they made.
Oh,
Because you
to
forget that it's
Renanis.
like, yeah, to Renanish, like you forget like, oh wait, you leave the book and like, Esun has basically made the boil bugs like demolish the army, also turned everybody in Renanis into stone, which is like a desert away. Um, and you have to come to terms. Well, she's becoming a rock, and she's like losing, her arms and her breasts and stuff. But like dealing with Yika's anger over it because she destroyed her home, but realized like there's like so many things that come together, and I actually like that we don't have to spend that much time with it. because like of course Chica's pissed. Like that was their home. They were safe, but of course they had to leave because they were under attack. And of course they have to cross the desert because there's this place that's uninhabited that, as far as they know, that's going to provide them with all the resources that they need, and they just have to like make it through the desert. And yeah, yeah. All that is, it's a lot. I think it's a lot, but I think it was a nice shift to not always be in Essen's head and to kind of see it through other people's eyes. Um, and that whole trek to Renatus, like where they get to the node station before that, right? And Essen is like, pissed at Message because he doesn't know how to spin a Taurus to protect the people.
Yeah. And Yika has no idea how to use a Taurus as a shield because she wasn't trained for
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And Essen can't do it because
Yeah,
she'll turn
definitely
into stone
Eliana.
even quicker. Well, I'm gonna put it here so you can
She's
read it.
first.
A lot of that passing down of generational, familial, blood or not trauma.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and again, that's why I said this was such a hard read for like Mother's Day. You know, because we're looking at it made me think about Essun's relationship with her mother, who did what she
Hmm.
thought she's supposed to do.
Oh, she did the best she could. And at first you're like, why is this woman giving her child away? Why? How dare she? And you're like, well, actually, she's protecting her child from being killed and just, um,
But she
yeah,
treated and at the same time, she treated her so cruelly, putting her in a
yeah.
barn with
In a
just
barn
hay and
with like
no bathroom,
no
no
blankets
blankets,
because they
just
don't get cold. Like this child came out of you. How could you treat her like that?
right. And then you have Essun, who's had to murder one of her children, who had to deal with one of her children being murdered by his father for different reasons,
Hmm.
and now is
Yeah.
trying to save that third child who she treated so harshly and recognizes that she treated her harshly. And as a result, she treated Uche a little bit softer and was hoping
Hmm.
to apologize to her when she got older and could understand it a little more, and then didn't even get that chance. And of course, Nasu knows none of this. All Nasu knows is that her mother never smiled at her and her mother never hugged her and her mother broke her hand. How do
Hmm.
you? And here comes her mother broke her hand and never smiled at her. Her father always smiled at her and treated her with love, but then he murdered her brother and now he's trying to kill her. And then here comes Shafa, this
Yeah.
adoptive father who, okay, yeah,
He
he did
smiles
abuse
at
my
her all the
mother. He smiles
time.
at her, he holds her hand, and he protects her, and
Hmm.
he's not trying to kill her, and he knows what she
Yeah.
is, and it doesn't matter. And to her,
Yeah.
that is the truest love she's ever felt. And it's like, oh, it's awful.
Oh
Then you have
man.
Steele, who almost comes off like he's grooming her, and then you realize it's grooming her to
Yo.
destroy himself and the earth. She's
Yeah.
already willing to die if it at least means something.
Yes.
And here he
Yes.
comes manipulating that
Hmm.
because he wants to die. And I get
He
why
wants to
Steele wants to
die.
die. He's been alive for 40,000 years. He doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
And when Esun realizes that Stone Eaters used to be people, she thinks to herself that the little boy Hoa pretended to be is how he probably used to look. But now we know that no, Hoa never looked like that. But
Yeah.
he wanted to be human so badly.
He wanted to be accepted. Like he knew if he took that form, especially because he, had an eye out for her, that she would accept him more readily.
And he was
Someone
right.
here's someone who's lost her children. He was right. It was a smart move on his part because if he had appeared to her as a regular stone eater, like there's no,
No.
I don't, it would have taken, yeah.
But yeah, appearing as a child, and also but the fact that he chose a child when he's never been a child. It's
Hmm.
that to me was
Yeah,
sad
that too. Yeah,
because as he said,
yeah.
he was decanted as an adult
Decanted.
with language and knowledge and just went straight to work. He
Hmm.
never got to be a child.
Can you highlight AK's comment, please?
It explains all the hurt looks he would give her in the beginning when she pushed him away.
Yeah.
Poor Hoa.
Poor Hoa.
I wonder if Esun reminded him of Kalenli.
That's a good question. She is tall.
Because there's a lot he doesn't remember about what people looked
Hmm.
like because it was so long ago, and he kind of fills in
Right.
their looks with the people he knows now, and
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
admits that he's doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he does.
Like
Hmm.
Hoa never got to have a mother. That's so sad.
Oh,
Gosh, this series is just it's so good. It's
it is
so
so good.
heartbreaking, but it's so good.
So heartbreaking. It's so infuriating and so exciting and just scary at times. And you just, what do you do in a world that's broken? And maybe the only way to fix it is to continue to break it. Like that's
Let's talk
whew,
about
taking
Essen's
that that
journey
road.
through the earth with her crew.
Oh
That
man.
was also really scary. So she
I
didn't get
just
to
I was sitting
see.
here earlier and I was just like, oh shit, Lorna.
Yeah, she didn't get to see Father Earth because Hoa made sure to dodge,
hmm
Father Earth, so she didn't see the faces and all that, but she did see just the bright light. Um, and the idea that the Stone Eaters who want the Earth to end started attacking them, we haven't seen that happen before.
No, we didn't know it was possible. I mean, first of all, we didn't know it was possible to travel through the earth with more than one person. And Ho was like, "Oh, I
Well,
can
no,
bring your
we
whole
did because
crew."
that's what Antimony did. She took both,
Oh, wait, she took both of them. That's right.
yeah,
My bad.
Cyan and
Yeah.
Alabaster.
Oh, but then to know that they could be attacked and that they were just lying in wait for them.
And her thinking it was a success fighting them off, not realizing that they destroyed
hmm
Lerna. I That also broke was just another time that my heart broke, is the loss of
Yeah.
Lerna,
Yeah.
because my hope, especially learning that she was pregnant, I
hmm
doubted that she would survive, and I figured that Lerna would not get to be a father to the baby he made with her.
hmm
Well, you know what I mean. Like she wouldn't get to have a baby with her because I didn't think she would
Yeah.
survive. But I was
Yeah.
hoping that what would happen was that Lerna would get to raise Nasun. So
Yeah.
Nasun could have somebody who knows who she is and still loves
That's what
her,
you
who
kind of
loved her
thought that that's
mother.
where it was going. Like
Right.
he came all this way.
He came
Shut up,
all
Bran.
this
He
way. And
came
and
all
then
this
also she'd have a piece of Terimo, a place that even
Yeah.
if she wanted to get away so badly, it was still home.
Yeah. And that moment where Essen is like, I didn't realize that I loved him. And like
Yeah.
oh God. Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
is fertile, my goodness.
I know. This was just making babies. I don't know how they tested for that, but I mean obviously the Fulcrum knew also.
Well, she thought she stopped having periods because she isn't eating right and they've been traveling through the
hmm
desert.
And
But,
then she was like, wait a second. The three times that the other two times, the three times that I stopped having periods before, they were all significant. It's because she was pregnant.
Lerna was actually
Yeah.
a really, really hard loss. It
Yeah.
just completely dashed my dreams. That was just like what I saw happening, what I imagined happening. I was like, "Oh, Lerna's
hmm
perfect to be the father that Nasun needs."
Yeah.
And
And it's such a delayed reaction. It's I'm trying to think of there's it's kind of like when when Dumbledore dies, you're like, wait, that what do you mean? He's of course he's coming. He's like you just haven't found him yet. Or he's like around the corner. You're expecting him to show up, and then you're like, wait, because they do a really good job of like making him a character that is always a little bit of an afterthought. You're like, oh, Lerner's always there. He's always like,
right.
he pops up or whatever. But the for even for you, when Ho is like trying to figure out how to explain to her and doesn't actually have the words to say it, it just becomes so much heavier and it just gradually sinks into you that no, that bump that she felt when they were traveling through the earth when she thought she was defending them, no, that was him.
And that death
Whew.
is horrible. You basically just turned into nothing.
Yeah.
Like you're broken down to atoms.
I wonder if he got released when Father Earth like gave up the hostages.
I would think so.
Yeah. I hope so for him.
By the way,
Yeah.
Dumbledore's death was spoiled for me by a t-shirt. Somebody had a t-shirt and it said Dumbledore dies on page something another.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Isn't
am
that
so
horrible?
sorry.
Isn't that horrible?
I'm so sorry.
I had to go into it knowing Dumbledore was gonna die. I was so annoyed.
Oh, that is really annoying.
I was so
That's how,
annoyed.
like, when I went into season, was it 6 or 7, knowing that one of the dragons was gonna die, like, 2 episodes in, because one of my friends spoiled it for me because he saw, like, advanced things, and I was like, "Oh, no. What do you mean?" And so I spent the
Someone,
rest of the season, like, waiting for it to happen and going like, "Ugh, okay, not this episode." And then when it did, whoo, did I boohoo cry? Oh my god.
also, Tony Stark dying in Endgame got spoiled for me too, but I suspected it was gonna happen anyway, and I wasn't sure
Mm,
if I believed him, but somebody made a post on Facebook, and it was like Endgame spoilers in the comments, and then commented Tony Stark dies at the end, but obviously you see the comments on the post on Facebook, so it's
yeah.
like, it was just right there, and I was like, "Come
I'm like,
on,
why would you do that? It's so rude.
people can't resist." Anyway, yeah, Lerna Lerna's death kind of destroyed what I thought was gonna happen, specifically for Nasun. I knew we weren't gonna come out with everyone, but Lerna was actually
Yeah,
a surprise for me, him dying.
yeah. I thought it would be
Um,
somebody else, like Tonki or
or
Hyarka.
I thought it would
Or
have been
oh, you know
Hjarta.
who we haven't talked about? Dano.
Dano?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Dano.
The would-be general, who's actually a Lorist.
She didn't even want to be fighting this war. She was just conscripted and
Mm-mm.
had to do what she had to do.
She's like, I was just trying to take notes for posterity.
Yeah, I
Oh. Although I do like that Nasun ends up like with her, because that's a full circle moment for me, because Nasun was trying to run away to become a Lorist, and now the people that she's left with are Tonki, Yarka, and Dano.
and she can't do Arajani.
And she can't do Rajni, so she's got no other options.
She can only listen to the earth, she can't actually do anything.
Hmm.
One of the things that I thought was really beautiful, and again, heartbreaking, was that as Nasun and Esun are fighting for power over the obelisk gate, Esun realizes that Nasun is also gonna turn into stone if she continues, and if she keeps fighting her.
Hmm.
And so she decides, "Fuck it, let her just do what she was gonna do, because at least Nasun will get to live."
Yeah.
And dies with tears on her face and her hand outstretched
Smiling,
because she
smiling at her.
and Nasun sees it, her mother dying, reaching for her and reaching for the moon, and decides to do, what it is that her mother wanted.
Yeah.
And
And I love how she, like, when she taps into the onyx, she's like she got the downloads. She's like, she knows exactly what's supposed to happen. She knows her mother's
and
last
it's like
wishes because
execute, whatever, yes,
yeah.
no.
Oh
Um,
man.
well,
That
because
whole thing is, but that because like Essen is looking at her and she has this moment. She's like, "Oh my god, my like I understand what she's trying to do and I get why she's probably trying to do it, but also, oh my,
it's
she's
gonna
so
kill her.
powerful. And
Yeah.
it's gonna kill her, but look at how powerful she is. Look, she's like so she's got all this pride along with all these other feelings, and she's just smiling and crying, and Nasun sees the tears are for her. The smile that she's never seen before is for her, and her mother's man, just like
But I was
supporting what
really
she's doing.
happy that because they didn't get to have a real moment together, because
Mhm.
everything was so urgent and everything was happening so quickly and everything was so hectic and crazy, I was happy that she had that moment to see that and to
Mhm.
recognize that her mother does love her and is proud of
Yeah.
her, and, it changes her mind about
Yeah.
ending
It's
humanity,
so important. So important.
and I'm
Because like
just
you
so
think
happy she got it.
yeah, because you don't know that you don't think that that's gonna they're gonna get the chance to do that because they see each other. She comes out of warrant and her mom is there and they have this like standoff. And she's like, "Listen, I gotta save Shafa." And she's like, "What?" And she's like, "I gotta save
She
Shafa."
almost
And
has a
she's going,
panic Espen almost has a panic attack just at the
yeah,
sound of
she's because
just hearing his name.
and she's yeah. And she's just like, and she's seeing in her mom's eyes, and not, and Essen realizes that her hesitation, like she's lost her any connection that she was going to make in that moment because oh, Shafa has been her guardian, like literally. Um, and oh man, that whole standoff.
Eliana says, "Preteen rebellion stakes are so high." Yeah, hell yeah, especially when you have a preteen who's a
uh,
tuner.
oh my god,
The
essentially.
tuner who doesn't even know what that means, who's being manipulated by a stone eater who's 40,000 years old
Hmm.
and suicidal.
With a suicide, yeah, exactly.
You know, it's I was just so happy that Nasu was able to get
Mhm.
that moment, to get that release, um, even if Esun wasn't there to get to experience it.
Yeah.
But later on,
Oh.
as her body's there in its stone, we see they said that flowers have been placed in her hand, and
Mhm.
there's a smaller hand put next to her on the right side where she lost
Yeah.
her arm, and that's Nasun's hand. And
I
so
wanna
it's
know who
like,
took her hand off. Was that gruesome? But I was curious, like, but who did that for her?
yeah, I don't know. We don't know. I
Yeah,
guess we could assume Hoa, but
maybe.
we never really know. It's just taken off and not eaten. It's
Yeah.
just taken off.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, you know what we should talk about also is just that they get like Shafa finds core point and is like, she remember he's Shafa's in a coma. They travel through the center of Earth, he's in all these pain, and she's taking care of him. Like, she's like cleaning him up and she's
And the
making sure
magic
that he's
bed is cleaning him
the
too.
magic bed is cleaning him. And then one day he's like the day that she's supposed to catch the moon or destroy the moon.
When she
Um,
finally decides that she's gonna destroy the entire Earth.
Man, the Shafa that she sees is not the Shafa that she knows, and she's like, "Wait a second," and he's
Hello, little
like
enemy.
running.
I've been saying that to my kids. Now when my son comes to my bedroom at like 5:30 in the morning, I just whisper, "Hello, little enemy."
Oh man, you gotta be careful. He's gonna take that to school.
He's the enemy of sleep. So I whisper it to him every morning now. Yeah, it's gonna be weird when he says that to his teacher. "Hello, little
Hello,
enemy."
little enemy, with his little raspy voice.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love it.
once Shafa was up and moving, I actually thought he was gonna
Lurching.
go, because Father Earth at that point had taken over. Actually thought what was gonna happen was that Shafa was gonna try to kill Nasun,
That's what
but
I thought.
instead, it was Father Earth being like, "Oh shit, this little powerful tuner is gonna actually destroy me. Let me give her something she
Hmm.
wants."
Exactly. And let me make this a harder decision for her. If I take my little cornerstone or core stone out of his head and give her back the person that she wants, maybe she won't think about destroying it. Like that was like his twisted compromise. And she was at that point, she's like, still don't care.
Because Nasun was gonna turn everyone into stone eaters, but we can't forget that she was also planning to just go ahead and destroy the Earth,
Yeah,
because that's what Steel really wanted. Oh, AK just
yeah.
asked, "Weren't you worried about him and a ghost?" Yes, I was worried about his so he has 2
We
ghosts.
don't talk about that. No, no, no,
One of
no,
them, we
no,
can't
no,
say her
no.
name because it gives Nikki
No.
nightmares, but the
She
other
appears
one
in my
turns out,
dreams. Not
yeah,
nice.
it's really creepy. The other one actually turned the one that, he would whisper to in the hallway turned out to be the name of a classmate. I don't know why he whispers him to him in the hallway, but kids are weird. So, yes, I was
Kids are
worried about him and
weird.
a ghost, and now I whisper, "Hello, little enemy," and he's probably gonna say it to his teacher, and the room will be very creeped out,
Uh,
but
they're gonna pull you into that conference and be like, so we have some questions.
Uh,
Uh,
so yeah, Father Earth was actually kinda desperate,
mhm.
um, giving her Shafa back. He was actually kinda desperate, and it shows you how powerful she is and how close she was actually to
Mhm.
succeeding with what Steel
Yeah.
wanted.
Just like summoning obelisks to her. I love like in between like the action that's going on between her and her mom is that you like they she's listing the obelisks that are coming
Yes,
online
and
because
it's like,
she's like,
"Okay,
I'm
now we
not strong
connect."
enough to get the onyx, but if I connect all of these together, then I
Right.
have a substitute key.
And she does it
Oh.
so orderly. It's like, okay, first we connect one to one, and now they're all paired up. Now we take these pairs, we put these pairs together. Okay, now we have them in fours. Okay, now we take those. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I wish I was this
Oh
efficient
yeah.
at literally anything.
Oh
um,
man.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's taken Esun 10 years to get to this point. The first time she
Mhm.
touched an obelisk was 12, no, I'm sorry, 12 years ago.
And it
And
almost killed her.
and that was a broken one, and she destroyed a city. And here's Nasun, who's just kinda, like, sitting and doing math.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, it reminds me. Oh wait, no, I don't want it to be a spoiler. I was gonna say it reminds me about the a scene from the most recent Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man uses geometry.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't wanna do any spoilers because I feel like since that's not on streaming, maybe people haven't seen it. But yeah,
Mhm.
there's a scene where he simply uses geometry and you're like, "Oh shit." Like, I didn't even think
Oh,
about that. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that was Nasun. She just kinda, like, sat down and just did it, and, um,
So good.
she's so powerful. And then to also it made me keep thinking about Uche, who's been floating in and out of obelisks like it's nothing. It's a game to him. It's hide and seek to him. Imagine the power he would have
Mhm.
had he been allowed to grow. He would have
Yeah.
been a 4-year-old 10 ringer.
Oh, totally. Easily.
If at he wasn't 3 yet when he died. So if at
Yeah.
barely 3 years old, he's able to access obelisks like they're nothing, you know, yeah, he would have Can
Yeah.
you imagine a 4-year-old 10 ringer? What a
No.
tantrum would do?
Terrifying.
Um,
Hmm.
what else? What else? As
I
soon
love, you know what I love? I love when they, after traveling, through the earth, and they arrive at Core Point, Essen and her whole entourage, and they look up and they see that the sky is clear, and they see the moon for the first time, and that to me is so magical and
The way I
powerful.
pictured that in my head was the moon being really, really close.
Hmm.
Because she talks about being able to see the craters and everything. Usually when we look up at
Yeah.
the moon, we kinda just see white, but they're
Hmm.
seeing, like, details. So that means the moon was really close, and it
Yeah.
must have looked so huge, and I cannot wait until they make the show for this because I want that
Oh,
shot so
yeah.
bad
Me too.
of this
Me too.
close up moon. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine this whole time, your entire life, thousands of years, you've been taught to not even that astronomists are
Yeah.
just hacks and, like, nobody pays
Hmm.
attention to the
Nobody
sky.
pays attention to the sky. It's all about what's happening
Nobody's
beneath
even
your
heard of a
feet.
moon, and now here for the first time, you're seeing it.
Oh.
That's wild.
And this will be the time that I tell everybody, remember to go outside tonight and look up because there's a
Yes,
lunar eclipse.
there's a lunar eclipse tonight. I would go to the park, to that, like, high place to go look at it, but people go up there to do drugs and have sex, so it's not really a
Yeah.
good place to be at night.
No. Stay out of
Which
parks. That's the rule here. Don't
yeah,
go to
we
parks
don't
like
really
that.
do the parks at night, but it would be the perfect place to go because it's so dark
Mm.
and it's high enough where, you can look at the sky without buildings impeding your view, but,
Yeah.
you
I was
might
in
come.
Harlem the last lunar eclipse.
Were you?
Yeah, with my sister.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'll just look at, I don't know, pictures.
Pictures.
Yeah.
National Geographic tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, or like NASA or something.
Yeah.
Um, this
Oh
is a good time
man.
actually to tell you to follow us on social media, Thousand Eyes One on Twitter, ONE, not the number. A Thousand Eyes and One on Facebook and Instagram, and all book club stuff is Wine on an Empty Stomach on Instagram. And for all of our past links, you can go to thousandeyespodcast.com and you'll find all our links there.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell you that now before we're done. Um,
Hmm.
so the ending of this story, we now have the moon is back.
Moon is
They've
back.
been watching it. It's in orbit. It's not
Hmm.
leaving.
Yep.
The
It's
seasons are
making
going
shapes
to
that they
end.
don't understand, but they're getting used to it.
Yeah. Right. They've
There's
never
been
seen moon phases.
negotiations,
They've never
right?
seen
They've
moon
never seen moon
phases. That's so
phases. So
crazy.
like, oh, what's happening to it? Because it's gone, but then it comes back and it like grows and then it
And
shrinks, and
it's
they're
and they
just
keep
like,
saying it's apparently the same distance, so they know
yeah.
it's not leaving again.
Hmm.
Um, they've reached a truce. They've been negotiations with
They've been
Father
negotiating
Earth.
with evil Earth, well, Father Earth,
They've
Earth,
decided to
the
stop
Father,
saying evil
calling
Earth
him
as a
evil.
curse.
Yep, for good
Um,
relations.
Father Earth has decided to let them live because they brought back the moon.
Hmm.
This season
And to
itself
release the
isn't over.
hostages.
Right, and to release all those souls. Thousands, tens of thousands of years of souls that were trapped in the earth. There's this world doesn't really
Mhm.
seem to have religion.
Yeah.
Nobody really talks about what happens after you die, but I can't imagine anyone buried a loved one and thought, like, that it would be a soul that's screaming essentially in hell,
Mhm.
just screaming for thousands of years with an
Yeah.
angry ass Father Earth. That is horrifying. That's like a horror movie.
Yeah. I'm telling you, they did
Um,
it in Freddy.
I haven't really watched all of the I've only watched a few of the Freddie King movies. I really
Ooh,
only
girl,
go
let's
back
do
to
it.
the well, I usually only go back to the first one.
Hmm. But you're missing three is so good though.
Which
Dream
one is
Warriors is
3?
every. That's the one where all they're in the psychiatric ward, and Nancy comes back as the psychiatrist, and she's trying to help the kids.
I remember the one with I think it was Kelly Rowland where, like, Freddy Krueger just keeps calling everybody bitch. That one was annoying.
That was such bad writing.
He was like, "Hey, bitch." Just, like, over he just no, he says it so much that you're just like, "What is wrong with
Yeah,
you?"
no. It's like they forgot that in the late 80s, early 90s to call a woman a bitch was like a huge deal. And so
So
you only need to have it happen once or twice in a movie for the impact. And he was just like
he's like,
passed
"Hey,
them out.
bitch. Shut up, bitch. Bitch this, bitch that." And it's like, "Bruh,
Yeah.
okay." There's an episode of, Rick and Morty that makes fun of that. It's actually really
Yeah, I
funny.
remember
You
that
seen that
one.
one?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really funny. And then when you if you see that episode and go back, you realize they were extremely spot on with the script.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I don't know who
Totally.
wrote that shit, but anyway, sorry to
Yeah.
that man. Um, what was I
You should
saying? I lost my train of thought. Oh, so the Stone Eaters. The
Stone
Stone
Eaters.
Eaters now are still alive. Unfortunately for them, they have to just kinda plug on. Esun is now a Stone Eater, and Hoa has
Mhm.
taken care of rebuilding her because he wants her to have memories of who she was.
If you
And
wanna be
this,
my
for me,
lover.
was the big brain explosion. The entire series is Hoa telling
Mhm.
her the story of her own life as a
Yeah.
Stone Eater. The
Yeah.
entire series, all 3 books, are Hoa telling her the story of her life so that she remembers who she is now that she's a Stone
Mhm.
Eater, and
Yeah.
that was just like a dagger in the chest.
Just like, whoa, NK, you're a
And
genius.
so to go back and reread it from beginning to end now,
Mhm.
knowing that this is an old Stone Eater talking to a new Stone Eater and telling her who she is,
Yeah.
it
So amazing.
uh,
Girl, you got a dog?
that's outside. I don't know what happened to that dog, but he's going through it. Sorry to that dog. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that was it just it made the I mean, because you figure out after a while that it's Hoa that's narrating, but we don't
Right,
really know
right.
why he's narrating, and it's really the very,
Mhm.
very end that tells you, and I again, this is why rereads are
It's such
so
a
great.
beautiful
So then
reveal. Yeah.
you reread it as Hoa telling Stoney to Esun, because who knows what her name's gonna be now. She's been Demaya, she's been Cyanite, she's been Esun.
Mhm.
You know, she may have another Stone Eater name, she may not. Maybe she'll go back to being Demaya, who knows? Um,
Mm.
I thought that was a really great reveal.
Mhm.
Um, what do you
Hmm.
think happens now to this world? The seasons are gonna end.
The seasons are gonna end, but I mean, I think that Hoa, when he's talking to Nasun after Shafa dies, that he's like, well, the seasons are gonna still last a while, but the world will self-regulate.
Well, I think he was saying that they'll still have
He
natural
was like,
disasters.
yeah. They'll still have not that even the season that it had touched off is not gonna like just end abruptly because of this.
Right. It has to,
So yeah,
you know,
it has to play out.
it will
Um,
end though.
but
And humanity
yeah,
will
but he
likely
was telling her,
still.
he's like, listen, go help them be better people. Go help them change. That's your job now. So it makes even more sense that she's left with Daniel and Tonki and Yarka.
I would have been pissed if Daniel died because we do need a Loris to tell this
Oh
story.
no, I would have. I think it would have been absolutely. I don't have the
I
words
really
for it,
felt
but
like
yeah,
Hyarka was the one we could have like she was kind of the
yeah,
throwaway in the group, you know?
I do
No
too.
offense to
I'm sorry
Hyarka,
to
but
say it, but
she
like,
was kind
yeah.
of the throwaway. Like Lerna was supposed to go on to be Nasun's father. Tonki is this like genius scientist who's watching all this unfold. We need her to like figure
Hmm.
out how this shit works so we can get
Exactly how
the
to document
technology
it and
going and all of
everything.
that.
Exactly.
Right. And then we need Daniel to tell the story of what happened so that Esun can go on in history and so that Origins can stop being abused and enslaved.
Hmm.
And then there's
Exactly.
Hyarka who's there.
Apparently, they're just to drain Tonki's balls to keep her balanced. Like, what else is her purpose? I don't know.
AK says honorable mention for Tonki being kept in check by a lady. I guess that's what Hyarka's that was Hyarka's
Yeah, I
role to
guess
keep
so.
Tonki in check.
Yeah.
Oh man. So that's the stone sky. I mean, we covered as much as we could. You know, there's always a thousand things more to talk about. A thousand and one. Ha
And
ha ha.
one. Haha.
Um,
Yeah,
did you have dreams about stone eaters after reading this? Because I did.
I didn't actually. I did have some weird dreams last night after re-listening to the ending, but they were about other things, Neptune and stuff. So actually, no, maybe they were because their planets were really close, so probably influenced by
Yeah.
by the book. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
this was a really, really great series. I'm glad we did all 3 books for this one. Um, for future books, we still have to do the Gilded Ones.
Can't wait. Love
We were
it.
originally gonna do that in July, but since we're preparing for House of the Dragon, we're actually gonna do a House of the Dragon primer, I guess.
Yep.
We're gonna
Primer.
reread a
Warm up.
portion of Fire and Blood, and we're gonna dress up and talk about it. Um, obviously, we don't it's gonna be spoilers for Fire and Blood. We have no idea if it's spoilers for House of the Dragon because we don't know what they're gonna do really, but we do know that it's gonna be
Yeah.
the Dance of the Dragon. So we're gonna talk about some of the background for what
Hmm.
led to yes, Alicia, the Princess and the
Yes,
Queen.
definitely.
Um, we're gonna talk about some of the background that led up to the Dance of the Dragons, the first Great Council, all of that stuff,
Hmm.
the Queen who never was, etc.
Yep.
So we're gonna do that in July. It won't be live. We're gonna pre-record it and post it. Then we will do the Gilded Ones at some point, and
If you want to get ahead for our spooky season read in October,
uh
oh, my soul to
Tananarive
keep.
Do, My Soul to Keep. It's the first book of the series called African Immortals.
Yeah.
And at
Which
some
we
point
both
we
haven't read because it's
because
her
it's
stories are so
scary.
scary. We'll get there.
We're also thinking about doing Black Sun by Rebecca Rowanhorse. So those are 3 books you can go pick up that we have on our
Mhm.
TBR so far. Um, Gilded Ones, Black Sun, My
My
Soul
soul
to
to keep.
Keep. And Princess and the Queen if you have the book with the short stories, or just get Fire and Blood and start from the chapter about uh whose heirs after Jaehaerys. I forgot which chapter that is.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I have it right here. I can tell you. Whoops. Heirs of the Dragon: A Question of Succession. That's this chapter. Let me hold it up.
Whew, okay.
Ooh, there we go. With
Yay.
her,
I'm gonna break the
that
fourth wall
chapter.
and say that I have to watch the Celtics game now.
The author name for Black Sun is Rebecca Rowanhorse, and the author name for My Soul to Keep is Tananarive Du. I'm gonna put that in the comments.
Yep.
Sorry, dropped my bookmark.
Yeah, the scary book. It's Kendall Roy. Oh man. No, the scary book is My Soul to Keep.
Yeah, I'm typing it into the comments now.
Yeah. And I'll do my best to stay in my seat, but the Celtics are losing, and it's game 7, so gotta
So
go.
that is that's that. We'll see you guys on the other side.
See you
And
next time. Thanks for watching.
sorry, I'm trying to put this in the comment and without writing too many syllables. I may have added an extra syllable. I can't tell because my eyes are bad. Nope, I think that's it.
I think that is it.
Okay.
Um,
See you guys in July. Take care.
bye.
Bye bye.